Assalamu alaikum everyone, how are you guys doing? I want you to imagine a student by the name of Abdullah. Abdullah was born and raised Muslim in a Muslim household, in a Muslim community, and even went to a Muslim high school. Imagine Abdullah gets accepted into the college of his dreams. He goes to college, goes away from his parents, ready to study engineering or whatever, and he goes to his first week of classes. One of the classes required for every student to take, in America at least, in many universities, is Philosophy 101. So Abdullah, first week of school, first week in his new life, new experience, away from his parents, away from his Muslim community, goes and sits in that Philosophy 101 course. Now imagine that first day the professor comes in, and imagine if that professor comes to class holding the book in his hand. I mean, I doubt he's having al-maqasid by Imam Nawawi, but anyway, he comes and says, "Students, what is this?" And then the students say, "It's a book." Now the teacher starts saying, "I don't think it's a book. I have a doubt that this is a book. What is the definition of a book?" Then Abdullah raises his hand. "Well, a book has a cover, has pages in the middle." And then the teacher says, "Well, my file on the desk has two covers, back and front, and has a bunch of papers in the middle. Is that a book?" Abdullah stops. He's like, "Well, not really, but that's a difference." Well, what's the difference? Going back and forth with his teacher, at the end of the class, amongst when many students are trying to argue what a book is, the teacher profoundly states, "See, you guys came to college trying to start your new life thinking you knew what a book is. What about your other beliefs? You don't even know what a book is. You couldn't even give a proper definition. What about your other beliefs, your other core fundamental beliefs that you have held throughout your entire lives?" The teacher tells them you have to reevaluate, be a skeptic, and critically think about the beliefs that you have. Now that you're in college, you should shed your old skin and get a new one. After this class and many other classes, amongst reading Plato, Descartes, and many other philosophers, Abdullah starts having doubts. He starts doubting whether God exists, whether Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a real prophet, whether Islam is a true religion, and he's in this state of depression because of the doubts that he has had. Now, this story of Abdullah is a story that many Muslims, and even non-Muslims, many people who believe in a God, have gone through the same steps, have gone through the same journey, that they were raised up believing in God, they were raised up in a good religious community, and then they go and take a philosophy class, or go and talk with some atheist friends, or go and talk with people of other religions, and then there comes these doubts. People throw doubts into their own religion. They come up with questions. And in this video, I want to talk to you guys about these doubts, specifically skepticism, the idea of skepticism, the idea of being a skeptic of everything and just questioning everything and not believing anything that's coming up to you, not believing your own fundamental ideas because of this idea that we should be a skeptic. I want to talk to you guys about what is skepticism, the logical and philosophical problems that skepticism and this idea of skepticism brings about, and how to even deal with these doubts in an Islamic manner based on the Quran and Sunnah. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's begin. So what is skepticism? A skeptic is one who, rather than taking information as a basis, they doubt the information or the thing that is in front of them. Joshua Rasmussen actually talks about this a lot throughout many of his books. And Joshua Rasmussen discusses an individual, a philosopher, a teacher in a university who was a skeptic, who went through this realm of skepticism, doubting all the information, doubting what the books say, doubting his reality, doubting everything, till he came to the conclusion, this professor, that he does not exist, or that we're just in a brain in a vat, that this universe and what's going on does not exist, that outside his own realm, nothing really exists. So this belief that he does not exist did not come out of nowhere. It didn't just spring out randomly one day that he woke up and go like, "Oh, I don't exist." This is a sound-minded individual, no medical issues probably, no psychological problems, but because of his series of doubts, because of this idea of skepticism, doubting everything that comes in your way, doubting all your information, even doubting your core beliefs, this individual, this professor, came to the realm of doubting that he himself even exists. Now, one of the core beliefs of skeptics is that skeptics don't really believe in anything unless there's, let's say, a logical, deductive, or even maybe inductive, but deductive argument proving that the information that is coming their way or that a belief is a true belief. Famously, Alex O'Connor used to name his YouTube channel Cosmic Skeptic, and he was a skeptic. He doubted many things, like famously the belief in a God. He's an atheist. However, Cosmic Skeptic and many other of these skeptics have this foundation that the only way that we can reach a sound conclusion or believe in something is if there's a logical argument being made. And that's why Cosmic Skeptic, Alex O'Connor, and many other atheists, they will only believe in something if there's an argument being made for them. There's an argument that they cannot counter. Because if they can counter an argument, so says many of the skeptics, then the belief is not a true belief. Because if you can doubt it and if you can throw another argument against it, then the believability of said belief, let's say in God for these atheists, is skeptical. That's why they are skeptics. Atheists are skeptics, for instance, of the belief in God. That they need a sound, proper argument, a deductive or even inductive argument that they cannot go against in order to believe in a God. That's why many times there are skeptics who doubt everything, but like general skeptics, they will believe in science, deductive argument, logic, critical thinking, because these are foundational beliefs, inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, that only through these means can we reach the truth. And every belief we must doubt, and only through doubt can we reach a conclusion. This is famously given to Descartes. However, before Descartes, there was actually one of the great scholars of Islam, Imam al-Ghazali, who held this opinion. That we must doubt in order to reach the truth. Because skeptics and skepticism is the idea that the only way we reach the truth is through this means of doubting, and then only through doubting, only through all these doubts, and we reach a conclusion. There's no way of going against it, that this belief, let's say the belief in God, that an argument is so powerful that there's no way to even doubt it, then and only then can we no longer be a skeptic and actually believe in the belief in God, for instance. Al-Ghazali states, "I felt an urge to seek the true meaning of the original fitrah, and the true meaning of the beliefs arising through mere conformicism, taqlid, to parents and teachers. I want to sift out these uncritical beliefs, the beginning of which are suggestions imposed from without, since there are differences of opinion in the discernment of those that are true from those that are false." So you can kind of see the beginnings of this idea of skepticism even in Al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali is stating that I was born into a Muslim household. I was doing taqleed, blind following, and now in order to see if this is a real belief, rather than me just believing because my parents say so, I have to go through this realm of doubting in order to reach the proper conclusion. And the way that I can reach a proper conclusion is through logical, deductive arguments, induction, and once I find an argument that's a pristine argument, then and only then can I believe in a God, truly believe in a God. Let us go down to what is wrong with this idea of skepticism. We talked about what skepticism is and what is required from the skeptic, what the skeptic requires in order to believe in something. Well, what is wrong with this idea of skepticism? The first problem, and I think it's one of the main problems of skepticism, this idea of doubting everything, is that there are foundational beliefs that everybody in the world, and even a skeptic, has that they cannot deny. This is even famous within Descartes. I think, therefore I am. That Descartes says, I am thinking. Like, whatever this thinking is, how I feel in this time of thinking and doubting and throwing questions, that's foundational. I can't go and doubt whether I am thinking. Can you, like, if anybody watching this video and you're seeing this video and you're processing whether this video is good, whether I should like and subscribe, if you're thinking about that, then you are thinking. Can you go and just doubt that? Can you doubt that you're thinking? Can you doubt that you're doubting? Can you doubt that your doubts are doubting? It makes no sense. Those are those are some beliefs that we just simply have. This idea that we're thinking, that our memories, that our intellect is sound. Even in the field of science, for instance, in the philosophy of science, in science, we uphold the beliefs that our memories are valid. Because imagine you're doing a test, like you're testing a couple of people to see if a vaccine is good, for instance. We could just doubt everything and say, well, how do we know that we tested those people yesterday? How do we know that this was actually true? How do we know that this is the same person as one yesterday? We don't even think about doubting these things because those are foundational beliefs. We know that if we see a person that we saw before, our brains automatically recognize that we saw that individual before. But if we were to take skepticism to its final degree, then we should even doubt that we saw this person a day before, because how do you know your mind is not playing a trick on you? We all have these foundational beliefs. Even another foundational beliefs that we have is logic. We all uphold the law of non-contradiction, whether we've heard of this law or not. For instance, if somebody came up to you and said, I saw a four-sided triangle, that sentence makes no sense. And you're like, well, how did you see a four-sided triangle if triangles are by definition three sides? Those are contradictory beliefs. And even if I were to say that to you, you would automatically have a reaction within you saying, what does that even mean? That makes no sense. Those are core foundational beliefs. Those are beliefs, we can't escape that. And a skeptic could, in theory, try to doubt that. But if you think about it, the skeptic is doubting these beliefs, and the only way for him to reach the truth is if there's a logical argument being made, but logical arguments are held up by the law of non-contradiction. So if they're trying to doubt everything, then they would have to doubt the law of non-contradiction, but they no longer have a way of getting out of these doubts because they went through the final degree of even doubting the law of non-contradiction. In understanding all of this, the great philosopher Wittgenstein stated that we all have something called hinge epistemology. You know, like when you open the door, there's the hinge there that's keeping the door up. If you were to take apart those hinges, then the door would never work. It would just fall down. Well, Wittgenstein says that there are some hinge ideas, these hinge epistemological ideas and beliefs and core foundational beliefs that we have that is impossible to go and even doubt those beliefs. Wittgenstein, on these hinge epistemological beliefs and on doubting, states, if you try to doubt everything, you would not get as far as doubting anything. The game of doubting itself presupposes certainty. He's making an interesting claim here, if you really think about it, that we have this belief, this foundational belief that we want certainty. No skeptic, no philosopher is ever going to doubt whether certainty is good, or no one's going to doubt whether we should have certainty. Because if you're doubting if we should have certainty, then what is your goal? Just doubting it? But you're doubting it in order to get certainty of whether or not there is no certainty. So he's saying that this is just a stupid game. We're just going, all these skeptics and this idea of skepticism that is proposed by many philosophers is just a game that never ends. But we have some hinge epistemological beliefs that we have even in the realm of doubting, such as our desire, our natural inclination of certainty. And that's why for the first point against skepticism is that we all have core foundational beliefs that no matter what, we can never take away from it. That no matter what, we uphold even if we want to call ourselves skeptics. Understanding this, another problem with skepticism is that skepticism, this idea of being a skeptic, does not work, nor are there skeptics in any other field of study. Outside of theology, people are not really skeptical. In fact, we label people who doubt vaccines, who doubt medicine, who doubt all what the doctors say as conspiracy theorists. We label them as individuals who are not that smart and just doubt everything. Like when it comes to, interestingly, theology, a belief in God, which has been foundational throughout human history, we somehow accept skepticism. We accept that there are atheists. We accept that people are skeptical of the belief in God. But when it comes to vaccines or anything else, we criticize people for being skeptics. The point I'm trying to show is that skepticism is only accepted in the realm of philosophy and theology, but not in the realm of any other science. This is a radical skepticism. Obviously, I'm not saying doubting some stuff, showing issues to like a scientific article. I'm not saying that. But to be this radical skeptic and doubting everything, it doesn't work in any other field. Imagine if somebody came up to you and says, I doubt vaccines are good, I doubt that we landed in the moon, I doubt that the earth is round, and I doubt gravity exists. Like, would you really accept this? And would anyone accept this individual as being of sound mind? Would they be getting this huge reward and this validation from all academics in the world, all scientists, all like people from NASA, all these other academics in the field? Of course not. They would actually be rejected from these academics. They would be blacklisted basically. But only when it comes to the field of theology do we accept skepticism. And that's the main problem with skepticism, that people are inclined, and this is what happens when people take a philosophy class, and this is what happens with this miscommunication with philosophy professors in philosophy or in atheists you meet in college. They are thinking that we should be a skeptic, but their skepticism only comes in the field of religion. Outside the field of religion, outside of whether God exists or not, people tend not to be skeptic. That's kind of contradictory, if you ask me. So that's one of the problems with skepticism, that it does not work in any other field. But we try to validate it and say that it's a good thing to be a skeptic only when it comes to the belief in God, only when it comes to foundational beliefs in theology and maybe philosophy. Now, the last problem I want to talk to you about skepticism is epistemologically, what would give the skeptic the right to believe in something? What would satisfy the skeptic who has this thing that we must doubt everything to believe in something? Many times, people say that they only want the hardcore facts and truth, and they only want logical arguments and a debate to understand something. But how many times have you shown, let's say somebody who doubts vaccines, all the scientific evidence, all the doctors who say vaccines are good, or that the earth is round, for instance, and they still find a way to doubt it, and they still do not believe in it? Like, you should ask them, well, what would make you believe in it? What would make you believe that vaccines are good, or that the earth is round, or for an atheist, that there is a God? And it's an important question to ask, because here's the thing that many skeptics and even atheists have made people believe, that if there was only a logical argument for the belief in a God, man, I would believe it. The only reason I don't believe in a God is because there's no arguments for it. How many arguments are there for the existence of God? The cosmological argument, the contingency argument, the design argument. There's so many arguments for the existence of God that it just comes to question, like, well, what would you believe in? Like, can you give me an epistemological framework? And many times, these atheists who are skeptics of God, and all these skeptics, because generally skeptics are those who don't believe in God, they will just say, like, well, why doesn't God come down from the sky and make me fly and change gravity? If he does that right now, I'll believe in him. And interestingly, even the Quran mentions this. Even the Quran states, and even if we had sent down to them the angels with the message, and the dead to speak to them of it, and we gathered together every created thing in front of them, they would not believe. The Quran is even stating that even if Allah were to send angels, Allah were to make people, the dead, speak and gather everyone, they would still not believe. And that's the problem with like these atheists and these radical skeptics, is that they claim they want logical arguments, but the reality is that no matter what you give them, they will not believe. And the question arises, well, what is your epistemological framework? What will make you believe? Really, the issue is not here. It's in their hearts. And that is the main issue, that these skeptics and these atheists, they hide their disbelief in God, or maybe their hatred of God, or their just displeasure into believe in a God who commands them to do stuff and commands them not to do stuff, in this realm of academia, philosophy, skepticism, and being intellectual. They hide all of their beliefs in this realm because they're not giving what would make them believe outside of if God turned me upside down and made this. But even then, as the Quran states, and we're going to get to what the Quran and the Sunnah state right now, inshallah, they will still not believe. Now, before going on to the Islamic section, there are points when we need to be skeptic. If somebody comes with us saying like, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the people of hadith, they would be very skeptical when somebody that they did not know came with a hadith. They were skeptical when these stuff happened. When, for instance, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did the Isra wa Miraj and went up to the heavens and came back within one day, people threw this doubt to the Sahabas. And Abu Bakr said, if it is the case, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said it, I believe him. And this will lead into this important lesson in the Islamic section right now. But Abu Bakr was skeptical of whether or not this occurred because of the person coming to tell them, or because of the people who told him that the Prophet ﷺ said this. But if the Prophet ﷺ did say it, he would believe it. So we have skepticism, we have doubting. Sometimes even in fiqh, we doubt. Even in fiqh, in the Islamic University of Medina, we go through this thing of looking at what a madhab says on a certain opinion and sees, well, does it fit with the argument before? Does it fit with the Quran and Sunnah? Does it fit with all these things? So there are skepticism in some areas, but when it comes to core foundational aqeedah, beliefs of God, then we're just going to doubting all the core beliefs that people have held for thousands and thousands of years. And that needs a video in and of itself. But the main point is that even though we can use even though the critical thinking is good, logic, studying these stuff is good and beneficial, and being doubtful of some stuff is beneficial, there also comes the realm of not to go to the extreme of even doubting God, of doubting Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, a core foundational belief, which then needs another video to explain why it's a core foundational belief. Because Ibn Taymiyyah, for instance, says that we all have the fitrah, but that's another discussion. And inshallah, if you guys subscribe, you guys can watch the video, inshallah. Now, in understanding everything we went over so far, let us look at how to deal with these problematic doubts through the lens of the Quran and Sunnah. What does the Quran and Sunnah teach us about these doubts? How to deal with them? The first tip I want to give you guys is a tip that comes from the Quran and even from a hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Asking somebody more knowledgeable than you. I know it sounds basic, but this is really important. We have so much resources nowadays to ask people who can deal with these Islamic doubts that we can go and ask them for help. And people don't go and ask. So there's Sapien Institute, who you can book an entire 30-minute session with them for free to deal with an Islamic doubt head on. You can probably email all these guys, Subur Ahmed, Muhammad Ajab, Jake, and all these guys. You can even ask your local imam, and hopefully they will know. But the point is, you have to ask somebody who is more knowledgeable than you. And a prime example of this is in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. Oh Allah, Ibrahim is talking to Allah. And Ibrahim asks Allah, show me how you bring life back from the dead. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to Ibrahim's request. أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ. So do you not believe? And Ibrahim responds to Allah in this. He says, بَلَا وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَ الْقَلْبِ. Of course I believe in you, Allah. Of course I believe that you can do this. But just to make my heart relax, just to make myself to be peaceful at heart, serenity, to be at peace with myself. And the rest of the ayah, Allah is showing Ibrahim that he is able to do this. There's a couple of important lessons in this ayah that we can extract from this ayah. For starters, Ibrahim he did not have a doubt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do this, but he believed that Allah can do this. He had this belief, but there was something that he just wanted, this tatma'inna, this peacefulness in his heart, to see that Allah does do this. And there's a big difference here. If somebody says, I doubt that it was a good thing that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Aisha, for instance, or somebody says, oh no, I don't doubt that it's a bad thing, but there's something bothering me about it. I just want somebody to explain it to me better so I can better understand it or better articulate it. Those are two different things. And many times, people don't go from yaqeen in Islam, but full-on belief about Allah, the Messenger, and all of these issues, to full-on doubting everything. People go in this realm of first having this little bit of, how do I explain this? How do I explain to my friends, for instance, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Aisha? How do I explain apostasy law? How do I explain this in this day and age, for instance? And rather than going and asking somebody, people will just leave this within themselves. And this is where the hadith Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes in. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam states, verily, one of you will remain good as long as he fears Allah. If you find doubt within yourself about something, ask a man to cure you from it. But soon you will not be able to find such a person. Editing Patrit here. I just realized going through this video that this was not a saying of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it was a saying of a Sahaba. And I just wanted to get that out of the way, clear that up. That was my fault. And there's a couple of interesting things about this. For one thing, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw doubt as a disease, as a sickness, because it is a sickness. You are doubting what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send down to you. And now this doubt that was mentioned in this hadith, it could be a doubt of a really big issue of a doubt, like I don't know if this actually happened or if this is actually true or how to think about this. Or it could be like this doubt of, I just want to feel a little bit better within my heart. I want to have more yaqeen about this matter even though I believe in it. Any which way, the point is, go ask somebody. This is such a beneficial advice if you really think about it. Because in any other field, if you go to academia, you sit down with the teacher. If the teacher says, if you guys don't understand anything, you can email me, text me, talk to it in class. And if you just leave that question you have all the way till exam day, that might affect your grade. It's better just to ask, because there might come a time when you cannot ask. So as when you're in class, you might not be able to ask the teacher a week before the exam because maybe he's busy. And saying that there might be a time when you cannot ask that sheikh, that you cannot ask Sapiens Institute, when you cannot ask somebody, maybe because of work, maybe because you moved, maybe for many other reasons. And if you don't ask right away when you have an issue, or you don't start at the root right away from the beginning, then not only will that doubt reach into a higher level, but you might not be able to find somebody to even ask that question. And once again, people do not go from one day being with yaqeen to suddenly doubting everything. People generally, they have their doubts, as it was mentioned, Ibrahim, that he believed and he knew wholeheartedly that Allah can do this, but he just wanted Allah just to show him that he can do this, just so he can feel a little bit better. And that's how many people start their doubts. If you start right away, then it's like a disease. That if you get a sickness and you go to the doctor faster, or you have an infection, you go to the doctor the first day, you can easily cure it much faster and much better with less damage to you than if you were to wait 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks. If you get my point. Another interesting point about this ayah, Allah doesn't actually show Ibrahim how he brings life back from the dead. He's not show the process of him saying kun fayakun, or if I just say of however Allah works. He doesn't show him that. Allah is showing what is needed to put that tutma'inna in the heart of Ibrahim, and that is that he is able to do it. So Ibrahim is not actually knowing the process of it. He is just being shown amazing thing that is occurring that can only be done from Allah. And sometimes just that can take one from doubt to belief. Just showing somebody at the perfect time that Allah is always listening to you, or just showing somebody that like the age of Aisha is not an issue. They don't even have to go in this long explanation. A quick summary, a quick explanation can help somebody. Even if it might not hit exactly the question that you're asking, it can change you from having a doubt to fully believing. The other tip I want to give you guys is that it's not just about logical thinking and having a deductive argument for everything, but a lot of these doubts come from the place of the heart. There's a famous hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he states, Satan will come to one of you and he will say, who created this and that? Until he says to him, who created your Lord? When it comes to this, let him seek refuge in Allah and stop such thoughts. In another narration, it says, فَلْيَقُلْ أَمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ. Let him say, I have faith in Allah. This goes counter to what is taught in academia. This tip is something that you can only find really in Islam. Even other religions don't really have this. This is something you find in Islam, not in academia, not in an academic paper that's just cold with a professor that's being taught and he has to write an academic paper in order to get tenure. This is the best advice. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, remember Allah. Say, I believe in Allah. This does a whiplash to you. You might be doubting who created Allah. As soon as that comes to you, if you just to say, Amantu billah, I believe in Allah, Allah can easily change your heart from doubt and worry and all that to a place of yaqeen, a place of serenity, a place of peace. And this is something so important that the atheist, the skeptic, the philosophy professor, your atheist friend, many of them do not believe, not because of a logical argument, but because of not curing their heart. Hamzat sources mentions that he debated this Nietzschean philosopher, somebody whose takhassus, his specialization was Nietzsche. And in this debate, Hamza went over all these arguments, all these logical arguments, proving Islam and all that stuff, when they were debating about God's existence. And the philosopher came up to Hamza after the debate saying, that was great and all, but I just want an explanation why my son was born handicapped, why he's mentally handicapped. And that hit Hamza's sources because it wasn't about the logical argument and winning the debate at that time. It was about what was in the person's heart. And we Muslims, when we have these doubts, we have the solution, and that is believing in Allah, reminding ourselves of Allah. And this goes on to my last tip, which is connected to my second tip, which is do your morning dhikrs. This will just change everything about you. If you wake up in the morning, whenever you wake up, and you do your morning dhikrs, at least you say the last 3 surahs of the Quran and Ayatul Kursi, then you are connecting yourself with Allah more. Those morning dhikrs are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you, to safeguard you, to push away all of these bad things that might occur to you, even doubts. Do your morning dhikr. Do your dhikr after Asr. Pray Asr and do your dhikr as well. These are designed to protect you. Allah created them to protect you. Go away from this academic thing of, oh, I just have to logically think everything through. Sometimes one of the best ways, and most of the times I would argue, the best way to deal with these doubts is to go back to Allah. To just say, I believe in Allah. To say the morning dhikrs. To pray an extra sunnah. So I would suggest that if you were to get anything from this video, is to start saying your morning dhikrs and your dhikr after Asr. If you do that, and you're somebody who has a little bit of doubt, I believe wholeheartedly that this will help at least most of you. At least more than 80-90% of you, this will help. That is the videos, everyone. I know I've been away for a long time. Inshallah, more videos will be posted online from now on. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this discussion, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and subscribe to my blog, which is down in the description below, where I post even articles that discussing these matters. And I hope to see you guys next time. And Assalamu alaikum.